Okay, so we're on with the Sparkling Seas square today, which is this one. So the idea here is that the seas are rippling and this is the sunlight catching on them, which I think is quite a nice idea. I liked that one. So we're going to start in a similar way to many of the other squares, where we get the yarn onto the hook. I like to use a little slip knot for that. You use whichever you feel is best. And then using the turquoise yarn, I do a chain of 4. So you've got this tiny little tail, and then we're going to slip stitch to join it into a ring. So that's putting the hook head through the chain furthest away and pulling through both. So we've now got this tiny little circle here. And working still in the same turquoise yarn, I'm going to chain 3. And that counts as the first UK treble. I'm now going to do 11 trebles. So that's wrap into that hole there. And then grab it, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2. So we do that again, wrap into that hole. You want to make sure you go in the hole and don't end up into any of the particular loops, because you do need to slide the work round and tighten it up a bit so that you can get all 11 of these into the hole. So just do these a little bit quicker. You can of course pause this at any point and work at your pace. I quite like to tuck the tail in as I'm working, so I'm wrapping, going in, and I'm making sure that that tail runs there along the chain. Grab it, bring it back through, so I've wrapped it inside there and then completed the treble. And in a moment I'll have to have a count, including the 3 chain at the beginning. I need to make sure I've got 12 stitches. So let's just have a look and see where we've got to. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Just perfect. So then, oops, got a little bit tangled there. Just set my hand up properly because I like the tension to be right. So we're at this point now, so we've got 12 stitches. Then you go near the top of the chain of 3, bring the yarn back through and through the other one, so that way you've slip stitched to join it. Now at this point on this particular pattern, we're not going to fasten off. I'm just going to get a little stitch marker, a split ring stitch marker, because we're going to come back to this yarn in a moment, so we're not going to fasten off. So that's just so I don't lose my stitch. Okay, and then I'll just get set up and we'll do round 2. Right, so we're at this point now, and we're going to join into any any stitch. So I'm going under the top of the 2 loops there. Don't turn your work over. This is the front of the work and you need to keep the front facing upwards at all times. So I'm going to grab the yarn, bring that through the hole, and then just to start with we have 2 chains. So I work 1 with the tail and 1 with the proper working yarn. So this is the first little sparkle that we're creating. So now what we're going to do is work a double crochet into every stitch. So that's under there. Grab your yarn, bring that back through, round and through 2. Remember, these are UK double crochets. Now because obviously the circle is getting bigger, we need to do 1 chain and then repeat that again. So we're going into the stitch to work a double crochet. 1 chain into the next stitch and work a double crochet. 1 chain into the next stitch and work a double crochet. We're going to work all the way around here, try not to get snagged up in that. That needs to stay at the back of the work because we're going to pick up here in a moment. But what you're then creating is this one double crochet, and the equivalent is a chain space there, and we're going to use that again in a moment. So it's important that you remember your one chain spaces that are being created each time. Okay, I'll let you finish that round. When you get to the end, do the slip stitch to join and then cut your yarn, and I'm going to sew mine in before we start the next round, just so it's nice and neat and out of the way. So I'll see you again in a moment. Okay, so that's how you will look after round 2, and you can see here I've got the split wing stitch marker in. We're now going to be working into the gaps between, so you should have 12 stitches and a gap between each stitch. So you start off by going into the one nearest to this loop that you've left and pop your hook head through it, and then you can take that out. Then wrap the yarn, bring it through that loop and then through this, and we're doing a chain of 3, and then in the same space we're doing a treble. So we're now working in each space around, and we're going to do 2 trebles into each space. So that's my next one. You can see where I've got my double crochet from the row before. So that's 2. So we're missing this stitch. I'm going 2 UK trebles into the next hole. Obviously miss the next stitch. Treble. So we're going to do that, so 2 trebles into each space all the way around till we get back to here. Then we're going to slip stitch to join, and then we are changing colours, so you can fasten off and sew your ends in, and we'll be ready for the next round. Okay, so this is how it looks after round 3. So we've done all these pairs of trebles in each of the one chain space from the row below, joined it, and I have sewn all the ends in. So again, we've got the same front, you're not turning your work over. We're now going back to the white again, and you join this into not gaps this time, we are purely looking at the stitches at the top, so all these little love heart shapes that you've got here. So I'm going to pop my needle into that one. It doesn't matter which one you pick, can be either. I'm going with this one. Then bring the yarn through, and we're working a 3 chain. So 1, 2, 3, and I can just pull that a little bit neater and tighter. Right, now that 3 chain counts as a UK double crochet and a 2 chain, so then we're going to miss the next stitch, which is that one, and we're going to work a double crochet into that, and then 2 chains, and then you miss a stitch and work another double crochet. Again, 2 chain, miss a stitch, and this is the fiddly bit because this is where you join. I always find these are a little more tricky to work into. There we go. Keep it as neat as you can. Another 2 chain, miss that one, 2 chain. So you can see how this is building up. Miss a stitch, work a stitch, miss a stitch, work a stitch. So you're going to go all the way round with the 2 chain, miss a stitch, double crochet into a stitch, go all the way round to the end, and again slip stitch in here I would say in the second chain there, and then fasten your ends in and we'll be ready to come and work the next round. Okay. Right, so this is how it will look when you have finished round 4, and it will curl up a little bit, but don't worry about that, it will flatten out as we continue to work. So for round 5 we're going to join in with the Jade yarn, so you can see it's a different colour, and we go into any of the 2 chain spaces and bring the yarn through, and then we want to do 3 chains. So as usual I'm going to do one with the tail and then set the hand up and so we need that to be at this side here, because we're going to now work another 3 trebles into the same hole. So that's 1, 2, just got my hand snag in there, and 3. So we've now got the equivalent of 4 trebles. So that's your chain and then 3 individuals. And then you miss that stitch, and each set is worked now into the 2 chain space. And we're going to be working 4 UK trebles into each of these spaces. So that's another set. So it's wrap in, grab it, bring it back through, wrap through 2, wrap through 2. And that's 4 times in total, and we're going to work this all the way around. So we're going to be working 4 trebles into each of these spaces, and if you've counted correctly on the row below, you should end up with 48 stitches going all the way around. Slip stitch when you get back to here, and then that will complete your circle, and then we'll come back and work some more little white flecks into things. So back in a mo. Okay, so we're back at the end of round 5, and we're now going to join the white in again to do the final set of little white flecks here. So as before, we are joining into any stitch and working a 2 chain. So I've brought it through, and then we work 1, 2 at that point. That counts as a double crochet and a 1 chain. So as before, we're going to miss the next stitch and work into the following one. So that's a double crochet and a chain. And then we're going to miss one, work into the next one. 1 double crochet, 1 chain. You must work the 1 chain or your circle doesn't really stand a chance of laying flat at the end. So it will curl slightly once you've finished this round, but it will flatten out again. So we're doing 1 chain, miss a stitch, 1 double crochet, 1 chain, miss a stitch, double crochet. So we'll go all the way around and join with a slip stitch into the first of the 2 chains back here. As I say, it's going to curl a little bit, but don't worry too much about that, it will flatten out as we do the next round. So we'll see you in a moment. Okay, so this is where we are with round 6. We're about to start round 7. These are quite easy rounds at the moment, they're not too technical. So we are joining our yarn again into any of the 1 chain spaces, so into the gaps, and this time we're doing the 2 chains. So I've done 1 with the tail and 1 with the main yarn, and now we're working in half trebles, so we're going to work another 2 half trebles into the same space. Like that. Just need to get attention, right? So we're now going to work 3 half trebles into each space here. So you're missing the stitches and working into the chain space. So that's 1, 2, 3. Oh, beg your pardon, no, we only worked 2 into that one. I thought there was something not quite working there. So we've got a set of 3, then we've got 2 half trebles into that chain space. Next one, we're going to work 3 half trebles. And then into the next one, we work 2. So just as a reminder, half treble is a wrap in, grab it, bring it back through. So you start so you're going to work a treble, but then just round and through all 3. So we're working combinations on this one of 3 half trebles into 1, and then 2 half trebles into the next. And you do that all the way round, and if you've counted correctly on the row below, you will finish with 2 half trebles in your final one and a slip stitch there, and that gives you the 60 stitches that you need then to work the next round. So we'll come back in a second and have a look at the next round of this. Okay, so this is round 7, not week 7, round 7, and we've got the combination of 3 half trebles and then 2 half trebles, 3 half trebles, 2 half trebles, all the way round. Now on one of the other squares we touched on this, that with half trebles you have not only this loop of stitches here, but you also have this extra row running round the back, which is useful because for the next part we want this to be all at the front. So we're going to be working into these stitches at the back. Now the designer's been very specific that she wants you to join into the back loop, so that's that one, of a pair of half trebles. So that's a pair there, and that's your next set of 3. So I've gone into the back loop here next to the pair. Then going to get the sand coloured yarn and pull that through, and then when it's behaving, I'm going to pull one loop through from the tail, and then another one to make my 2 chain at that point. You then work a half treble into the same loop, and this is going to pull and probably not look very pretty at this point, but don't worry, it will get better. We're now going to work a half treble into this back loop only of the next stitch, and it seems a little bit fiddly when you first start doing this, but it'll get easier as you work across. So we're going to do an individual treble 4 times once into each of the next 4 stitches. So where are we there? Okay, so I've got the original joining 2 chain and a half treble into 1, and then we've got 4 individual loops with it behind. I'll just do that again because this time we're going into, so there's my pair at that point, and then you can see I've pulled up the loop behind it just to the right of that first one, and I'm going to work 2 half trebles into that one, then going into the back of the next stitch, You know, this didn't fight with me at all when I did the practice one. We're doing this 4 times, always into the back. Don't know why it's going so messy on this one. 2, I feel like I've missed one. I'm just going to take that one back, the gap seems too big there and we need to make sure we catch every stitch. Yeah, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm back to my next pair. So a pair in there. 1, 2, 3. Oh, now we're flowing. 4, pair into here. 1, 2. Do make sure you work in half trebles. It's very important for the next phase. 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to pause there so you can see where we've got a pair and then 1, 2, 3, 4 and another pair, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're working into that stitch behind, so it's pulling that out and it's leaving this as a ridge at the front. So we'll go all the way round doing a pair and then 4 individual till you get back all the way to here, and you should finish with 4 individual half trebles at that point, and then we're going to slip stitch and fasten off as normal. So we'll join you again in a moment. Okay, so now we are back with round 9, and for round 9 we are very specifically asked to work into the 2 back loops. So as we've mentioned before, when it's a half treble, you end up with the love heart section at the front and then you end up with this extra stitch at the back. So I've just left that in just to indicate where we'd normally be working, but we're not on this one. We want to leave this front part of the stitch visible. So I've gone into these back 2 loops, and this is going to be the first corner that we work. So we're now squaring this off. So I'm doing 4 chains, and then a double treble into the same loop. Okay, so between them those count as 2 double trebles. It's then a 1 chain to do the actual corner, and then another 2 double trebles, all into that same stitch. We're now going to start to flatten the work off, or flatten the side. So I'm working 2 individual double trebles, 1 into each of the next 2 stitches. So we've moved 2 stitches along there. Then we're going to do a standard UK treble and another one. So these are being worked in pairs at the moment, but all into their own stitch. Then 2 half trebles. So that's where you wrap and bring through all 3. We're then going to work 5 double crochet. That's UK double crochet. 4, 5, and then we're going to start extending it again. So we're going to work 2 half trebles, each one into its own stitch, then 2 full trebles, and then 2 double trebles. And then we're back at our next corner. So the corner consists of 2 double trebles, 1 chain, and then another 2 double trebles. Like so. So you can see how you've got sort of like 2 lugs there, and they are the corners. Then we go back into working the pairs of things again. So we're going to work 2 individual double trebles, 2 trebles, and 2 half trebles, and then we're back to where I'm going to work 5 double crochet, and then you keep going with the combination. So you 5 double crochet, 2 half trebles, 2 trebles, 2 double trebles, and then you're back into your next corner. So you need to repeat that till you get round to here. You finish with 2 double trebles and a slip stitch to join, and that should complete the Sparkling Seas square. So we're back with that in 1 second. This is how it will look when you've finished. I hope you can see that okay, even though it's white against white. So you have your 4 corners here. Again, I would suggest that you block each one, and you need 4 of those in total. That squares it off, and then it makes it easier for you to sew it together. So I hope you found that helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.